Chapter 2 The Breakdown. The next day, Seattle woke up and he and Susie got dressed, pulling some nearby clothes off a clean pile. Ina was already gone to her morning shift, working at City Hall. Seattle took some eggs out of the fridge and put them on the stove to make him and Susie egg sandwiches. Susie said with a mouthful of food, "Did she get potato chips?" Seattle reached into the brown paper bag which was still sitting on the counter, and he picked out some of the dry goods and managed to find some sodas and a bag of Crunchers. "Yep," he told Susie. Seattle handed the bag to her, and Susie picked out the green chips because those were her favorite and put them in a Ziploc bag for her collection. Later that day at Forest Park Elementary, while Seattle was busy stepping on cracks in the cafeteria, Principal Hines called Seattle into his office. Susie and Josh were both sitting down, and Josh got up to give Seattle a hug. Josh was their emergency contact. "Thank you," said Josh to Principal Hines. He looked upset with tears in his eyes, and Seattle wondered why. On the car ride home, Josh pulled over and he broke down. Susie looked scared. She didn't know what had happened either. Josh pulled out onto the highway again and rubbed his face. They didn't go back home. Instead, they went to Josh's mom and dad's house. That's where Josh lived, and they met with Grandma and Grandpa. That's what Seattle and Susie had always called Josh's mom and dad because they never knew their grandparents. Josh gave Grandma and Grandpa a hug and went upstairs to be alone. Grandma and Grandpa both looked sad too, and when they saw the two kids, they both gave them a half-hearted smile and a big hug. Grandpa and Grandma's living room was decorated with Cardinal souvenirs. They were big baseball fans, and so was Josh. He worked as a statistician at Busch Stadium. He was monitoring pitcher data. Grandpa had a Yadier Molina jersey on, and Grandma had an Albert Pujols t-shirt and jeans. There was a big picture of the Clydesdales on the wall, and everything was signed, and it went back to the early days. There was even a photo of Grandma with the team. They were local St. Louisans and had been there their whole life. The only thing they loved more than the Cardinals were the Blues. They had a photo on the far wall of them in Seattle, Ina, Josh, and Susie with the Stanley Cup. That was a good day. The day after that, Josh had taken Seattle to the World Chess Hall of Fame on 4652 Maryland Avenue, St. Louis, Missouri, 63108. Seattle had memorized the address in case he wanted to take the bus to go and play when he was old enough to ride on his own. He especially loved the giant chess piece. There were lots of corners and tiles to touch, though, so it took them a while to get through the place. Seattle had even won a few trophies. He was a good player. Grandma and Grandpa smiled again as if something wasn't quite right, and Grandma broke down in tears and Grandpa held on to her. "Kids," said Grandpa. He always called Seattle and Susie kids. Seattle didn't know why, but he didn't mind. Something happened to Ina. "She's dead. She had a stroke and her heart gave out. The police said it was from stress." Seattle couldn't really remember what happened after that because everything just kind of got blurry and dark. He just remembered Susie with the blank look on her face and feeling, well, something, rage.